welcome to Science Prodigy. Today we will be continuing unit and measurement. This is the part 3 video of unit and measurement. We will be continuing from the time period of a simple pendulum. Before I begin, I would like to tell you about the seconds pendulum. It is also there in your syllabus, so only information which you should know about the seconds pendulum is that the time period of a seconds pendulum is 2 seconds. Okay, so that is the most important information, and based on that only the questions may be framed on seconds pendulum. So let's start with the time period of a simple pendulum. What are the factors on which the time period of a simple pendulum depends? The most important factor, because we know that the formula is T is equals to 2 pi into root under L by G. So we can directly figure out that time period is directly proportional to root under L and time period is inversely proportional to root under G. So what does this imply that? So we can actually understand from the first part that if the length of the pendulum is increased, that means the time period will also increase because they are directly proportional. And if the time period increases, that means time will move slower because the pendulum is moving more slowly. It is having more time period to cover up its oscillations. That means the clock becomes slow because the time period, the time frame is so much more, the clock becomes slower. Okay. Similarly, if the length is decreased, this phenomenon is generally observed when we see summer and winter season. In summer, due to thermal expansion, whenever a substance is heated, it thermally expands. So due to the thermal expansion, the pendulum increases in length. Because T is directly proportional to L, that means directly proportional to root under L, that means length has increased, so time period will increase, so the clock will become slower. But because during winter season, the contraction occurs at lower temperature, so the pendulum will have a decrease in its length. So the moment the pendulum decreases in its length, that means the time period will now get reduced and now the clock will start moving faster. Because the time frame is less, it is moving in a very faster rate. Now moving on to the second part. So this main concept for T proportional to root under L is observed. This variation is observed in the summer and the winter season. This sort of questions may also be asked that explain why the clock moves faster in the winter season and why the clock moves slower in the summer season. So you are going to frame your answer just like the way I said you. Now the next part is T is inversely proportional to root under G. It is inversely proportional to the acceleration due to gravity. So we know that acceleration due to gravity, it has a constant value. We consider the constant value of 9.8 meter per second square, but in general acceleration due to gravity varies from place to place, isn't it? So based on that, if the acceleration due to gravity at a place is more, time period will become less, and if the acceleration due to gravity is less, time period will become more because they are inversely proportional to each other. So you may be asked to draw the graph of T versus root L. Now as we already came to know from the formula itself that T is directly proportional to root L. So how will the graph of T versus root L look like? If I plot T on the y-axis and root L on the x-axis, it is very simple. It is directly proportional, so a directly proportional line having an angle of, more specifically having an angle of 45 degree. Because it is directly proportional, it is a straight line that is directly varying with respect to each other. That is, y is directly equal to x, this sort of a curve, right? So then if I go for the next graph which may be asked, if I square both the parts, because I can see that T is proportional to root L, if I square it, T square becomes proportional to L. So The next most important question asked is plot the graph between t square and L. That's also very easy. It is the same graph just obtained by squaring it. So this will also be a, it will not pass through origin. It will not pass through origin, and this is the graph. Then the next question that comes up is what to draw the graph between. The next question will be to draw the graph between t and L. So when it comes to t and L, because we are going for root L whole square, so it will be this sort of a graph, the graph between t and L. Okay. Now if I again draw the graph of t square versus L, how can we find the value of acceleration due to gravity g from the slope of the graph t square by L? This is generally a physics practical, but sometimes it can have direct application for your exam purpose as well as for your knowledge purpose. So because t square is directly proportional to L, if I go for squaring this particular equation first, okay, I find that t square is equal to 4 pi square L by G, right? Just squaring this one, that means t square by L is nothing but 4 pi square by G. Just shifting the L to this part. So now if I go for taking the slope of this graph, if I take the slope, particularly naming this as O, P and Q. So if I go for the slope of this particular t square versus L graph, it is y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. That means the slope is PQ by OQ. Now when I am going for the slope, it is nothing but PQ by OQ. So the slope is nothing but equal to t square by L. So I can equally write that the slope is nothing but 4 pi square. So it is more specifically the slope of the t square by L graph. So this is, and we have already determined, we have already derived that this is this value. So this slope, which is nothing but t square by L, because y2 minus y1 is the value of t square and this is the value of L, right? So as a result of that, we can easily write down, and we have already found out that the slope is nothing but t square by L, and we have found that it is 4 pi square by G. That implies G is equal to, shifting it to this side, 4 pi square by slope. So if you just calculate the slope of the graph and divide it by 4 pi square, you get the value of the acceleration due to gravity at the point or at the place where the pendulum is present. Okay, so that is how it is determined. Now let us move to some questions. So the question is, an astronaut carries a second pendulum to the moon. It has been provided, the data has been given that acceleration due to gravity at the moon is 1/6 of the acceleration due to gravity of the earth. So what is the time period of the second pendulum in the moon? So now just a few minutes back we saw that time period is inversely proportional to root g. That means time period of the earth by time period of the moon is equal to root under of, because they are inversely proportional. So this will become for the earth and this one is for the moon, right? That means time period at the moon, moving into this side, evaluating this value, this is only root under 1/6. So time period of the moon going towards this side and time period of the earth is 2 seconds. Time period at the earth of the second pendulum is 2 seconds. So 2 into root 6 seconds is the time period at the moon. So This is our answer. Just cross multiplying it, this moves there, and that's how it's done. So in the second question, it has been given that the length of a second's pendulum is increased to 4 times its original value. Then what is the new time period? So now again applying the same relation, time period is equals to, time period is proportional to root under L. So if I consider the initial length as L1 and final length will be, because it has been increased to 4 times the original value, so it becomes 4 times of L1. Now using the relation T1 by T2 is equal to root under L1 by 4 times of L1. Now T1 is the time period of a second's pendulum, which is 2 seconds, by T2 is equal to, now cancellation of root under L1, root under 4 is 2. So T2 goes to this side, 2 into 2, 4 seconds. Unit is very important. So the new time period is 4 seconds. Just cross multiply in this part and we get the new time. So now in the next question, it has been provided that the vernier scale on a microscope has got 50 divisions, which coincide with 49 divisions of the main scale. Now the main scale is divided into half millimeters. So what is the least count of the vernier? You can pause the video, solve it on your own and then check it out with me. So I am beginning to solve the question. So initially we can understand that from the important data we have to select what is important for us. The first part, vernier scale has got 50 divisions, okay, which are able to coincide with 49 divisions of the main scale. Now the second most important part, the main scale is divided into half millimeter divisions. That means the divisions of the main scale or the MSD, which is the main scale division, is half a millimeter. Half means 0.5 millimeter. Okay, so it is given only to us, and then it has been given that number of divisions of vernier is equal to 50. So we know that the formula is least count is equal to main scale division by number of divisions of vernier that is 0.5 by 50. So 0.1 by 10, it is nothing but 0. So this unit here is 0.1 millimeter. So mentioning the unit is very important. So in this question it has been given that I have just written down the given details that one main scale division is half millimeter. The circular head is having 100 total divisions, and upon rotations, upon 5 rotations of the circular scale, the distance moved is, that is totally equivalent to 5 main scale divisions. That is, the 5 rotations of the circular head is equivalent to 5 main scale division. The entire length moved for that is equivalent to this. So what is the pitch and the LC of the screw gauge? So now pitch is nothing but the distance moved in one rotation, which is equal to, if we see 5 rotation, it has been 5 main scale divisions. So for one rotation it will be 5 by 5 main scale division. 5 rotation, 5 main scale division. So one is simply taken to this side, it will be 5 main scale divisions. This is one main scale division, and in the question it has been provided that one main scale division is half a millimeter. Half millimeter means 0.5 mm. Now the next part, the LC. We know that LC is nothing but pitch by circular head divisions. Right? So pitch is 0.5 and total number of divisions on the circular scale is already given, that is 100. So our least count becomes 0.005 millimeter. Now the next question is a very simple question. You must know how to do them, but still it is generally provided for the chapter unit and measurement, so I am just doing them. The first one is expressing 5 meter 37 centimeter, it was given in centimeters. Expressing this in centimeters. So we know that 5 meter means 500 centimeter plus 37 centimeters. So our answer is 537 centimeter. Now the next question is expressing 3269 meter in kilometer. So because we know that 1 meter is 10 to the power minus 3 kilometer, that means 3269 meter is nothing but 3269 into 10 to the power minus 3 kilometer. That means it is nothing but 3.269 kilometer. So it is a very basic question which is sometimes even asked. So these were the basic questions. Initially in one previous part I had also covered how to calculate the zero error for a vernier caliper and a screw gauge. Today we did the most important questions in general for vernier caliper and screw gauge that we had still not covered. Last day also I discussed how we can calculate the main scale reading for a vernier scale, the main scale reading for a, that is not the main scale reading, the total scale reading for a vernier scale as well as a screw gauge. That was also discussed in the previous video along with zero error calculations. The remaining part, that is how to calculate the LC, how to calculate the pitch and the equal questions were covered today. Then we covered the time problems, that is these are the basic problems where we just have to apply how is time directly proportional to root L and time inversely proportional to root G. These sort of application problems also we discussed. Nothing will come out of that part, and most importantly the graph between T square versus L and how we get the acceleration due to gravity G from the graph of T square versus L, which I discussed today. So in these 3 video series I have completed each and every part which needs to be done for your exam purpose and most importantly for your learning purpose of unit and measurement. So with this I end today's video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe the channel for your benefit if you have still not subscribed. Thank you. Keep watching.